Let us begin the last presentation for today, given by Andrey Litunenko on how they, in their company, said goodbye to MongoDB. So first we will listen to the presentation, and then at the end we'll have a Q&A session. You ask your questions, and we will remember who asked the most interesting question, and after certain negotiations we will decide whom to award this elephant to. Hello everyone, my name is Andrey Litunenko, and today I will speak about how we give a farewell to MongoDB and on to PostgreSQL. I work in 2GIS. I have been with 2GIS for 2 years, and I'm a backend developer, and my overall developer experience is 5 years. What I'm going to talk about today. First, I will tell you something about 2GIS and personal account, what it is, and I will tell you about our pain in using 2DBMS, and then cover our solution and give some pieces of advice on how to make it clearer and more predictable. Who knows what 2GIS is? Do you use it? Great. Well, 2GIS is a reference book of organizations and a web map. And 2GIS is present in over 300 cities in Russia, in near and far abroad. For example, in the UAE it is present, and it can have different content like photos and information on discounts and contact details, and to do that all you have to have your personal account, and there you can edit your personal information by advertising, edit media content like photos and discount, and have a look at statistics to see what the users do in your card. And personal account is written in PHP, and as DBMS we used 2 databases, Postgres and MongoDB. In Postgres we stored reference books from master systems. We have a large number of integrations, and for example we read from special bus the companies and subsidiaries reference details, and we are masters of this system, and we store data on our users and requests, queries, and everything connected with our users in MongoDB. Why did we choose MongoDB 5 years ago or so? Because back then NoSQL was a hype thing, and guys decided to opt for it, but with time it turned out that it posed a lot of problems. First of all, you had to come up with really complex reports. For example, there is a company that has users in Novosibirsk, and you have to have a selection in Postgres first, then use a bus, find users in Mongo, and it is not real to do it manually. That is why you have to come up with one-time console command or select, and it complicates the data selection process. Another thing, in our backend, we did data merging from Mongo and Postgres, and Relational DBMS can do it from the box. So what we did looked like reinventing a wheel, and we had a very old release of Mongo 2.6, so we had two options, either to upgrade to Mongo higher than version 3, or to migrate fully to Postgres, therefore also tackling the first two problems. That's why we said goodbye to MongoDB and arranged our migration. So we decided that within one task we would transfer one collection, and in MongoDB we had around 30 collections, and we broke them down into three categories. The first one was documents with flat structure, the second one was documents with embedded arrays, and the third one was documents with inhomogeneous structure. And now I will describe each of these categories with a separate example and show you how we migrated. So the first category, documents with flat structure. Let's take as an example a collection of requests for password resetting. So if a user forgets password to enter their personal account, they go to a special page and insert their email and receive a link that they can use to reset their password. And in MongoDB it was stored like this. There is user email, unique code, date when this link is created, and when it is expired. Data transfer. First, we tried to write our custom scripts on data transfer, data migration, but here we had to invest a lot of effort to different types and batches and so on and so on. And we found on the internet mosql utility written in Ruby, and to launch it you need to indicate config YAML file that will have a mapping of a column from Mongo to Postgres, and it is launched easily, and you have also to indicate access to Mongo and Postgres. And for these collections of requests for password reset, we had 2 million documents, and we managed to migrate them in 4 minutes with the help of this utility. So we were very happy with this option. Afterwards, we changed the primary key, because in NoSQL primary key looked like that, so we just delete the old primary key and add the new one that meets the data structure that we need. The next step in the development is to support changes in the code. So not to use MongoDB anymore, but to migrate to Postgres. Therefore, we changed the code, ran a test, and after everything was tested and performed the correct work, we got to task release. Here we estimated at what time we had the minimum load per collection, and it found out that 8 a.m. Novosibirsk time was the best time for migration, so we came to office early in the morning, had some coffee and chocolate, and launched data migration and released the code. As for what conclusions we can make in this kind of collection migration, first of all, that was a pilot launch, and MoSQL proved really useful because we didn't have to come up with our own custom solution on data migration. So we did not translate the types, and we did not had to run our own scripts in the code. We didn't translate types from Mongo to Postgres. MoSQL did it all for us. And the migration is documented step by step, so it all can be repeated several times if needed in development. And for this collection, we managed to do it without downtime, as the load was minimum. Everything ran very fast and smoothly, and we were not forced to switch off the project, and the integrity of data was preserved, so data were transferred identically as they were stored in Mongo. And afterwards, we got to the next type of collection. These were documents with embedded arrays, and here I will consider collection of users, for example. So what it looks like. There is a user with certain parameters like email, role, and status. They have a name, and there is an embedded array of firms that they manage, and when they enter their personal account, they can look view these companies and edit them. And we estimated how much time was needed to migrate this kind of collection, and it turned out that we had to redo the whole project. If we compare it to the Earth and Jupiter, it is like 10 times more as compared to the previous collection that I told you about. Therefore, we decided that we will break this huge task down into subtasks, and within each subtask we will have goal refactoring. We will have refactoring whose goal is to go away from the dependency Mongo, then we test, and then we launch it into production. And after refactoring, the goal was to come up with a component in a code that would interact. So if the code interacts with the component, it doesn't know anything about the data source. It looks like this. So there used to be clear dependence on Mongo, and now the client code interacts with some abstract thing. And afterwards, the next stage of development was developing a script for data migration. So we wrote this script for mosql for document mapping from Mongo to Postgres. And here it took us 15 minutes to transfer 1.5 million documents, so that is more than in the previous collection, and we transferred the embedded array as is and inserted it into JSON-B field, and here syntax validation is required, and I believe that this validation took this much time. And we also wrote migration for the change of the primary key so that it should meet our structure, and it took us 20 minutes to transfer separate tables, and that is what the script on transfer looked like. So we extracted all users from users table, then we extract all embedded JSON objects to the field with firms, and there is a function JSON-B array elements for that. We receive the fields that we need, and we get them to the necessary type of object. We form a query to insert the data into the table, and we insert the data in batches. So that is like batch insert that we came up with, and we inserted 1,000 items into table, and it was much faster as compared to inserting entry per entry into table. And then we got to release, and it turned out that you cannot simply go and release this collection, because the whole project has been remade, and we need a safer mechanics to release it all. Therefore, we decided that we would run a downtime, so we will forewarn all the colleagues connected with our project about it, and as for our users, we will show them a plug that there is certain technical work in progress, and then we transfer data with the help of mosql and our scripts. Then we release the code, and afterwards we verify the consistency of data, check that everything has been transferred. And for that we wrote test scripts in Python to check the correctness of data in Mongo and Postgres. And if everything is okay and if everything is successful, then we launch the project. And therefore the release was successful. And as for the conclusions that we can make about collections of this kind.
Well, firstly, the development took us about 2 weeks. Development plus testing, and also you should bear in mind that developers were distracted to some business matters. So, which seems quite a decent period of time. Now we can get our data by the user and by the company in just one query. You don't need any data management with Mongo as a Postgres. You just send in one query and everything's so cool. The database size has reduced as well. Comparing data at Mongo and Postgres, it gives you that the database at Postgres is only about 60% of what it used to be, and our operations have grown faster. I checked the time it takes for such queries to be implemented. I did some load, launched 15, 80 parallel routines. We can see the selections with Postgres works two to 2.5 times quicker than at Mongo. The next collection types, documents with inhomogeneous structure. In this case, I'm going to have a look at the changelog. Now, so there's this company, Mickey Mouse Company. It has these parameters in our database. If the user from that company changes its address, then you don't need to update the field in the address field. You create a record that user such so-and-so has changed this parameter. So basically what we have implemented here is the eventual consistency scheme. Because 1 hour later, 3 hours later, this record will be delivered from the journal to the required master system and will update the address. As a result, the user changes the address. At Mongo, you only save the data, the address field and the parameter of the user. But if the user changes contacts, the field with the contacts was saved. So the user changes and you save. And the full schema of the collection was not could not be seen. And depending on different operations, there could be lots of operations: editing, adding, deleting. And each operation had its own set of fields. So as a result, it worked something like that with a whole number of fields. So it was not so easy to understand this scheme. So we had two options for migrating this database structure. Either we make a big picture with all the fields. So all the fields plus 15 more that can be required for each individual operation. Or option 2, we identify the fields which are there in all operation types, and the rest will be dumped to the JSON-B. This made the structure more compact, and it took far less disk space. So we selected the second version at the end of the day, and we started to migrate the data. So how do you migrate the data using MySQL? We migrated the context into a separate table. We had this experience previously. We transfer the general fields, which are there for each operation, and the remaining fields were simply dumped into a single field with JSON-B type. But this was an out-of-the-box solution, so we did not need to do anything custom-made. The SQL migration took about 20 minutes. The contacts were migrated in 10 minutes, and then we started to work on the release. The release was not so easy either. We also had to turn off the project. We had to warn everybody in advance. We migrated the data. We checked them for consistency and for integrity. And we saw that when we saw that everything was okay, we turned on the project. What are the takeaways? What are the conclusions about the collections from with unhomogeneous structure? Well, one, we can get data with accountful logs now. So if there's if such field is there in the logs, you can get it from the logs. If it is not there, you can take it from the main description. As a result, we have been able to take out all these workarounds. Furthermore, storing columns in JSON-B turned out to be the most compact option. So that is how it looks with one field. The option with one field is the best one, is more preferable as opposed to options with number of fields and the Mongo version. And we did that without customized mergings or joins. As a result, the application works now twice as quickly as it used to. So that is the response time. The green part is the time that it took with Mongo. Then we did the release. And with Postgres, the time fell to 60% of half of what it used to be. You know, it was quite a nice surprise to us. It is now much quicker and much better. Now, the pitfalls, just a bit. Because the documentation is not so detailed at the moment for this utility. This utility, what this utility does, it replicates from MongoDB to PostgreSQL, but you can switch it off if you like. You will use the skip tail parameter for this. If you import data in one go, then the table is deleted completely with all the data, and it is recreated. But you should bear this in mind. You can use special parameters to solve this issue. It does not need, you don't need to clean all the data. One more thing, the user has to have access to the admin database in MongoDB. Now a few recommendations on how to organize transition from Mongo to Postgres to make it as seamless as possible for you. The first thing you need to think about before you use in your project, the first thing to think about is whether you really need to use two databases in one project. Maybe you could do just with one database to avoid the problems that we had to face in our project. If it still turns out that you're using two databases, MongoDB and Postgres, and you decided to migrate from Mongo to Postgres, then I encourage you to use the MySQL utility to migrate the data. It's quite easy, quite comfortable. If necessary, after the migration, you will need to migrate to adapt data to your structure using special SQL queries. And I suggest that you migrate collection by collection, so that you don't make too many changes at one time, so that the task that you're going to face doesn't become too complicated, either for developers or for testers. If the task is too big, then you have to decompose it, and then do it in stages. And before the release, you need to identify whether the project has to be stopped, or whether you can do without any downtime. Or do you really need to put this project on hold to stop it for a time? But you'll definitely need to warn all the colleagues and everybody related to this project before you do so. So what will be the takeaways about the data migration and about this my presentation? Now we know how to build queries in one, we can generate reports in one query. Not only developers, but also analysts and testers can do this now. Everybody who has access to our database. We don't have to invent any more wheels using merging and etc. Our app is now twice as quick as it used to be. And we don't need to support the second database, the MongoDB, which means that we always know where all the data is stored. All the data is stored in only one database. Thank you very much. Questions, please. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your report. You said that the size has grown much smaller. I'm sorry, I cannot hear what the gentleman is saying. I'm very sorry. I'm sorry, that without the microphone, the interpreter cannot hear anything. The length can be quite different, from like about 100 characters. That's right. I'm very sorry. I cannot hear what the gentleman is saying. He's not using the microphone. With respect to your question one, we did not do any measurement. We did not try to estimate the real change. As for your second question, we don't have any choice for these fields. I showed you the example where, in case the logs are changed, we'll check whether this field was empty or not. But we don't do any filtration for these fields. We basically just give them away. Please use the microphone. Please use the microphone, gentlemen. Okay, very well. Thank you very much for this comment. We'll definitely take it into account. Are you referring to the changelog? Yes, this does exist. That's right. The scheme looks as follows. You enter your profile. Let's say you change the address of the company, and then we show the changed name in the profile. That's right. I would think about some sort of an optimization. Let's say we need to understand why the app is running slower. And then the main aim would be our selections have become simpler. We didn't have to make requests to two databases at the same time. We can just use one query. If things have gotten worse, we would have most probably would try to see what is running slow in these requests and why. But we wouldn't definitely have rolled back. And no, we haven't lost anything. Things have become really better. You can get all the data in one query, and that's how it is there. Things have become only better. Well, you know, I think you need to estimate various options for databases out there in the market. And you need to compare analogs. You need to compare. In my opinion, relational databases are the most universal, the most multi-purpose tools. So you have standard requirements to such a tool. Yes, we did it using mosql. We use customized query builders. So they allow to make flexible selections in the code and to get the data the way it is understandable to the developer. If it is interesting to you, I can send you the report from our meetup for logistics. Write to me or write to techno.logist.ru. I'm sorry, I cannot hear what the gentleman is saying. Yes, we had this idea, but firstly we thought that the update would not be that easy. So it would be better, more advisable. It would be easier to migrate to Postgres totally than to update MongoDB. Chunky said the data in new MongoDB takes less space, or what? Could you repeat that, please? I told you about our experience, what we had and what we received as a result. Okay, see your point. Thank you. Well, yes, they made this decision, so, but the company does not exist anymore, so you cannot ask anybody why they did so. Yeah, they were the main storage. Well, yes, approximately. I couldn't tell you the exact figure right now. I can write to you later when I get back to my office. It's hard to say right now. If everything would have failed during the migration, then we would have stopped the release totally and simply would have rolled back. If the release was successful but something started to work slower, then we would have probably started to look at it and would have optimized certain selections. That's right, that's right. I did not even think about it, but we use that version that you're talking about.
No? Спасибо за...
Thank you for this interesting remark. As for vacuum, in new tables, everything is more or less okay, but as for old tables, for example, firm reference books and subsidiary reference books, there is a certain issue, but I believe that we would be able to do something to optimize space, storage space for tables. We have a separate team that is in charge of structural solutions, as they don't say that something is wrong. I believe, or I can assume that everything is okay. I believe that there's enough space so far. That is migration executed on the server side. It is not client code.
Да, то есть в качестве
And again, here there is application to the necessary type, so everything should be okay. Regrettably, the speaker does not use the microphone, therefore interpretation is impossible. As far as I know, cluster, PGH is used, and there is PGPool and PGBouncer before it. Let us discuss it offline, and I will explain to you what there is there. Any more questions? Thank you very much. As I have already said, as I said 2 presentations ago, we would consider the best question, in my view or in our view, together with the further, that we will give this chocolate elephant. And I believe that the best questions, what about Mongo? Because we all know about this conflict between Mongo and Postgres, and I evaluated the question according to the audience reaction. So in my view, according to the audience reaction, the question that I and the audience liked most of all, I believe, was about considering migration to Mongo. I didn't see your name, but this question was asked on there, and I liked this question most of all, and I believe that the audience liked it most of all because it received really great reaction. So you will be awarded with this chocolate elephant. All the other questions were good as well, but there was no hype around them, and we live in a hype world, so that is really important. So my congratulations to you.